What is going on, Florida State family, Seminole Nation, in the 863 tribe? Is your boy Polk, a.k.a. a.k.a. the Goddamn Truth. Welcome to another episode of the Hangover, episode 119, August 6th, on a very hot Wednesday here in El Paso, Texas. It was hot as hell today. Hell. All caps with an exclamation mark behind it. Hot as hell. Nice out now. Plus the sun's on the other side, so it's nice out now. But man, was it hot today. I hope everybody's doing good. Hope everybody's having a great week so far. It's hump day. So enjoy your hump day with me. Have yourself an adult beverage or two. Or if you got to work it more, whatever the case, enjoy your evening. But I'm glad you tuned in here to the realest. In my opinion, nobody does it better for the Florida State fans than we do it over here on 863 Seminole TV. We give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. There was a scrimmage yesterday, and it's got people already telling lies. I'll be honest with y'all. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about scrimmage. We're going to talk about, the stuff coming out of that scrimmage. But before we get into all of that, man, hit that like button, subscribe, share the video. Everybody know we are live here tonight over here again on the realest platform for the Florida State football fan. And, pay these bills, man. Like, subscribe, share. That's how you pay the bills over here. Just like, subscribe, and share. That's all I ask. Anything else you do on your own, hey, much love and appreciate it. But all I ask you to do, like, subscribe, and share the videos. Before we get into that, of course, hit that comment section. Let's hit a roll call. And then we're going to get into the scrimmage, man. We're going to spend an hour 30. You know how long we ever go tonight. We're going to spend that on the scrimmage. What is, the lies. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about we'll tell some lies maybe. Maybe tell some lies tonight. So again, get in that comment section. Like, subscribe, share. Go hit this roll call in a second. And I want everybody to get in there. You ain't got to say much. Just say, hey, what's up? How you doing? Like 904 Davis, what up, fam? Get in the comment section so you can hit the roll call. And then go Noles. Go Noles is always the perfect thing to put in the comment section. Just go Noles. In that comment section real quick, and then we're going to get started. I want to give people time to get in here, get their bearings before we chop it up. And if we're not gonna do it, then I'll wait a little bit longer. And then we're just gonna get into it. I know how we do anyway. Y'all are comment as y'all come in, get yourself situated. So I'm just gonna do the short list of folks that's already in the comment section, and we're just gonna get right into the topic. So I got Momo KCD says, I thought it was 8:30 Central Time, 9:30 Eastern Time, and 7:30 Mountain Time. That's right, baby. I'm spanning 3 different time zones over here on 863 Seminole TV. At least the ones that I've lived in. I don't even count Hawaii time. I lived over there too. So that might have been some of the confusion. BG Gaines in the building was good. 904 Davis, Colin Hart, EMG, Kenny Ken, Black Shear, and Ray Fitty all in the building. Again, like, subscribe, share the video, get that comment section. Scrimmage started on the field, had to move it to the indoor practice facility due to lightning. Florida summers, you're getting at least one thunderstorm a day in Florida. I'm in Texas now. Yeah, man. Well, I've been in Texas. I've been in Texas for 4 years now. Did a rotation to Korea last year, as y'all all remember. Now I'm just, instead of Central Texas, I'm damn near in Mexico. Mexico's right over there. I could spit on Mexico if I wanted to. So that's where they got me now, on the border. YouTube had the wrong time. Okay. Damn YouTube. YouTube ain't good for nothing. But what's good, Vontae? What's good, Island Boy? Central Texas Kane, what's up? He said, Polk, what's good? It's been a while since I've been in here. I'm still wearing it. I know it don't look like it right now. You know, your boy got to enjoy his leave, but I'm still wearing it. They're going to have to kick me out before I take it off. I got 4 years, but I'm still wearing it. John Shields, one of my nemesis. How are you? I'm coming here with that BS, John. Scrimmage. Again, it started on the field. Had to move the indoor practice facility. I didn't listen to all the interviews today. I had to listen to Tony. There was one interview that I had to make sure I made time to listen to today. What's up, Almighty? Was Tony White. And gotta say, if you've listened to that interview, you loved it. I'm sure you loved it. You loved what he said. You loved the energy he had. And you didn't love it because he was, sunshine pumping, as we call it. He was very real and very candid that there are players that are, playing ball. And frankly, there are players that aren't playing ball. And he said, and I quote, they won't play a damn snap come season time. So I love that energy personally. Adam Fuller would have never said anything like that. So I 100% love the energy. Wanda Smith in the building. So what do we take off of the scrimmage? Well, before we get into the talk, you know me, I gotta pump brakes because I don't, I'm not gonna come in here and pretend one scrimmage. There's gonna be some more. Again, you still got a Bama install. So you kind of really haven't hit the dog days. You haven't hit the dog days of fall camp yet. Guys are still relatively fresh. So it's good to hear that they had some good energy in that full scrimmage. Let's talk when them dog days hit and guys are tired and they're sick of hitting each other. It gets a little bit chippier. But of course, we'll be covering it here. But the point being is I don't want to take anything that happened last night and over exaggerate it. What's up, Kane Zay? Right? Let's not let's not use whatever positives. I saw the clips. FSU actually just released a little 30-second clip of last night, not too long ago. Maybe wasn't too long ago at all. A few minutes ago. 20, 30 minutes ago, something like that. I don't know. You had guys on there like Danzy, BJ Gibson, I saw had a touchdown. Saw TC, throwing that thing around. Heard he had some good deep balls. Just trying to remember everything I saw in the clip. Maybe I can go watch it again. Because I'm drawing a blank on some of the stuff. But the point is, it's just that, right? It's one scrimmage, and we got a lot of time to go. But I will say there are certain names that have been dropped that I think it is intriguing. I've been talking about it the last couple weeks. For FSU to exceed expectations, there are going to have to be guys that step up and contribute that we're not expecting. And I think there's a big name that's really emerging here, and I'm not buying stock into it yet, but I will be interested to watch his progression as the offseason continues. Before we get into that, let's look at some of the comments. I see the chat kind of moving a little bit. I'm not going to pay attention to John because I told him my nemesis. I knew he was going to come in here with that BS. Like I said, what's up, Zay? Almighty says, hey, Polk, stay away from them dudes that want to knock you. Bro, that's crazy. I don't even know why you brought that up. I had forgot about that. And you brought it up. I think that was Dennis. John, get your fellow Miami Hurricanes, bro. They coming in here talking about eating nacho cheese off my foot. I had to give them this. I had to give them that. How you come in here talking about eating nacho cheese off a grown man foot? That was a hurricane that did that. Oh, and by the way, there's a new rule. Anytime Miami's mentioned and it's not a part of the discussion, just we randomly mentioned the Miami Hurricanes. It's a new rule. I didn't make it. I just follow it. I also got to play this video. What's up, Jeff? Edwin. What's up, fool? When you be at the game when Miami come to town? Well, I probably won't. I'm not even gonna lie to you because I might. Last year, obviously, I was in Korea, couldn't make a game. This year before that, obviously, I was in Tallahassee for the Miami game on the field. This year, I don't know because I'm just now moving. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make a game. I may very well try to though. Those Twins might get some burn. The Twins, man. It is intriguing to hear some of the freshmen. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into some of these names that are emerging. Um, what's up, Terrell? What's up, Noel 850? So one of the big names, just off the bat, I think maybe the most intriguing name that has emerged. Let me take Mario's ugly ass off of my screen. What am I doing? One of the most intriguing names that has emerged um, from the last night's scrimmage, in my opinion, has to be Jaden Jones. It's an individual that I thought would have transferred. He's a guy who was a top JUCO player but suffered a knee injury, and it's taken him a while to rehab that and bounce back from that. But he's always had the length. He's always been a 6'5", 240, 50-pound guy. So he's always had the length. He's always had the size. By the way, playing overhead. I don't know if y'all hear that. He's always had the length. He's always had the size. Now it looks like he's getting healthy. Maybe he's able to put some of that stuff together on the football field. Again, I'm not buying 100% stock into Jaden right now because at the end of the day, you got to see it when the lights are the brightest. But it's interesting because in years past, we never heard that name. He's been here for at least, I want to say Jaden's been here for about 3 years. I think Jaden Jones came when Johnny Wilson came, if I'm not mistaken. Someone can correct me on that. I believe Jaden Jones was a part of that class of, again, he's a JUCO transfer. And I think he's part of that Johnny Wilson, Winston Wright class, which was what, 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, right? So for 3 years, you haven't heard this man's name. I don't think that Tony White doesn't strike me as an individual that would just randomly say Jaden's name. He has no ties to Jaden. Tony White didn't bring Jaden here. I'm sure from a strictly football perspective, not knowing the young man, I'm sure Tony White could care less had Jaden Jones stayed or transferred, given that there's no game film on the guy. And yet his name has emerged as a guy who's starting to play some ball. He's a guy who's starting to play some ball, and I believe that is that's a name to watch for because I talked about it, man. Some guys are going to have to emerge that we're not expecting. Well, this is a senior guy. This is a guy who's been here, been in the system. I know it's a new defensive system, but he's been in the FSU system. He's been with Mike Norvell. Knows whatever culture, climate, whatever. This is one of those guys like a KJ Sampson or like a Daniel Lyons who's been here for enough time that you go make or break year. So again, not buying stock into it. I want to see or hear more. But you are going to need, I don't know what some of y'all's expectations are for the season. I know I listen and watch a little bit of everybody, and it's everywhere from 8 wins to 7 wins, 6 wins. Some people are even like, if everything strikes or everything hits the right way, you're looking at a 9-win team, whatever the case, whatever you think of as you can accomplish this year. A person, not specifically Jaden, but an individual like Jaden, who nobody's planning for, nobody's game planning for, is going to have to come in and not just exceed expectations, but really push playing time, really emerge as a consistent, good contributor. I'm not even suggesting that Jaden needs to go out here and be all ACC caliber, right? Can Jaden Jones, here's a question I'll pose. Can Jaden Jones literally give you 10 to 15, not just throw him out there to throw him out there? Can Jaden Jones literally give you 10 to 15 quality snaps a game? If he can give you that, I think then that is more than what you're expecting, because I wasn't expecting him to get any snaps. So if you're telling me that I can put that guy on the field for 10 to 15 plays a game to spell, and I don't know, would you put him directly on the D-line, Jack? I don't know. You could spell James Williams, stand up a little bit, whatever. If you're telling me that he can do those things, then I would take that all day. I would take that all day, every day. I got a super chat, so I got to get to that. Knowles 854 with a 999. He says 3 wide receivers got that 23 miles per hour burn. Let's just send them out there and get the secondary tired and then burn them up in the second half. Well, I know Danzy's got to be one. Squirrel White's got to be another. Who's the third? I'm not saying you're wrong, Knowles 854. I'm just legitimately asking, who's the third? Squirrel's got to be one. Danzy's got to be another one. Is it BJ or who would be the Lewayne? Is Lewayne that fast? Is it Lewayne McCoy? Is that who we're talking about? Is it Boggs? Who's the third? But anyway, thank you for the super chat. El knows 850. As always, love. Thank you for the love and support. And yeah, man, who's that third guy? Again, I can pretty much guess the first two, but that third guy, who is that?
Take a deep drink, take a deep drink. The money goes into my piggy bank.
Jeff says 8 wins is what I'm thinking. I mean, if we get all the right breaks, we get lucky, maybe 9. We might have had a bunch of players the last staff misused. Be pleasant surprised if we get more than 8. McCoy. And McCoy the third one? I'm not counting Lucas. I was thinking more of a receiver. I know Lucas is that gadget guy. You line him out wide, play in the backfield. He specifically said receiver in the comment. That's why I was not leaning towards Jalen Lucas. But it could be Jalen Lucas, Antoine. I see McCoy, Bugs, a.k.a. Boggs. Okay. LM, what's going on, LM? He says, you guys will win 9 games. Thank you for that, because you know what? I'm not even going to get there. This show is not about me predicting the schedule. We're talking about scrimmages. But you will not be the University of Miami Hurricanes. Dang. See, you did it. LM, I don't know if you are aware of the new rule here, but anytime Miami's brought up, I gotta do it. Sorry. Let's get back to it. So again, yeah, I think hearing that just a player like Jaden Jones wasn't a guy that I expected to hear about. I thought that was a pleasant surprise, and I think you can only take positivity from that. There was a question posed on social media. Someone was like, because I think Tony White said it, like Jaden Jones has been one of your better players on the field, period. Someone asked, is that a good or a bad thing? I understand the question in the sense of a guy that hasn't even been able to get on the field in years past is now all of a sudden the best player on the field, or one of the best players on the field. Ooh, is that a cause for concern? I don't think so, because if he's putting them in the group of guys that we know can play, like we know, like Deuce can play, right? We know Squirrel can play. We know James Williams can play. We know uh, that secondary, and there's guys Jeremiah Wilson. We know he can play. So if you're putting him in the same category as some of these guys, I think that's nothing but a good thing, right? I think that's nothing but a good thing. Another name that got mentioned was Lester. Charles Lester got mentioned, which is, again, I'm glad to hear. Kai Bates got mentioned. I'm glad to hear that. Again, I spoke about this a couple weeks ago, that some of these 4-star DBs need to start being 4-star DBs. Like some of these high blue chip DBs that you recruited, Kai Bates, Charles Lester, and these guys, Jamari Howard. Some of these guys, it's time to be that. It's time to be the player that you were supposed to be coming out of high school. So it's good to hear that some of these guys are putting it on the field. And it was good to hear Kai Bates. It was good to hear about Lester. Tony White did say something that concerned me, not about his defense per se, but he said that they had about 6 sacks that quarterbacks were able to like escape from. Basically 6 sacks that they weren't able to finish. So they had 6 potential sacks, which at first glance, or at first, when you first listen to that, you go, oh, okay. But then you're like, wait a minute. We're talking about a team that had a terrible offensive line last year. You gave up 6 sacks. Is that a credit that the defensive line is as good as some of us think it is? Is the offensive line still a work in progress? I think at the end of the day, anytime you line it up, you're going to win some and lose some. So I'm not too concerned, but it is a little concerning. Like 6 sacks is a lot of sacks. I mean, teams go games without giving up 6 sacks. So 6 sacks in one scrimmage. I don't know if Tony White was like embellishing that number or exaggerating that number. But 6 sacks is kind of a big deal for one scrimmage. If you had 6 potential sacks, that the only reason you didn't get them is because of quarterbacks, Kevin Sperry, and because Bronk Glenn did not play in the scrimmage, so there was the Kevin Sperry show and the TC show. If those guys' escapability is the only reason you didn't get those 6, I think that's concerning. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on that? On the potential that FSU should have had an additional 6 sacks? I don't know how many they had without those 6, but I remember Tony mentioning that they had about 6 sacks that got away from them. Back to the comments. I hear you got a great offensive line this year. Would be like last year. We're remaining to see if we have a good offensive line. Right, Camden Fryer can fly. I've heard. Lucas is based in Gadget, so he can run those wheel routes. How am I enjoying college football 26? I enjoy it for the most part. I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't enjoy the game. But I'd also be lying to you if I said that I didn't have some issues with that game. Jeff says, I don't think there's a concern because sometimes it takes 3 years for a player to come on his own and develop. That's not surprising. I mean, in the old days, you're not wrong, Jeff, right? In the old days, you're absolutely right. A lot of times you didn't hear about a player until he was a redshirt junior. People forget that Lawrence Timmons sat on – I think he sat on the bench. Lawrence Timmons didn't play, I believe, until he was either a redshirt sophomore or junior, which means he sat down for about 3 years before we knew who Lawrence Timmons was. And players didn't have a problem with doing that. They understood, like, there's guys ahead of me. I got to earn it. In today's college football, that's not necessarily the case. So, and again, Jaden also is coming back from an injury. So I'm not saying that he can't be a good player. And I agree with you. I don't think it's concerning. It's not a name I expected to hear this offseason. When I see Cromer run, 2 people come to mind: Eric Dickerson and James Wilder Jr. Eric Dickerson's a huge comp, Panama. Bull, John. First of all, you brought up Mario Cristobal, so I gotta do it. Secondly, that is a ball face lie. That video came out before Mario. You got to remember, Mario just beat Florida State for the first time last year. That video was out before last year, by the way. Just want you to know that. Anyway. Terrell says, how do you feel about that throw at TC with the wide receiver? That throw to Deuce, I know that everybody saw that clip. It was honestly, that's an underthrown football. And again, I'm not trying to be negative. I know people think I don't like TC. I don't think he's a great quarterback, but that's neither here nor there. Luckily, Deuce is 6'6" with long arms, so he was able to adjust, and he was being covered by arguably FSU's best corner in Jeremiah Wilson, who, unfortunately for Jeremiah, as good as he may be, he's only, 5'10", I believe. I think they list him at 5'10", 5'11". He's going up against a 6'6". But if that ball's put out in front, does he not maybe walk into the end zone? Again, you guys can get in the comment section and tell me I'm wrong. But that pass, he had to stop and adjust because it was underthrown a little bit there, right? It's a good point. Good point from Panama. He says 110 plays and only got 6 sacks away. I'll take it. It's a good point. Norvell did say they ran about 100 to 110 plays. Again, though, and that's all in the context of how they ran the scrimmage and that the stuff that we don't know, like starting at different field positions and just I'm positive the whole scrimmage wasn't just lining up and playing ball on both sides, right? Their situational stuff, I'm sure, was ran. I still think 6 sacks. Again, there's teams that go games without giving up 6 sacks. There's teams that go games without acquiring 6 sacks. I still think 6 sacks is a high number. Again, and that's only 6 sacks that they didn't get. What about if you also attribute actual plays that were counted as sacks, which I don't think that number was disclosed? I think that 6 number is a little concerning. I think, again, this is just me being transparent, right? I'm not, y'all know me, dog. I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, you see me? I got an Abe Lincoln. He said I got that Abe Lincoln going on. What's up, Till Dog? It may have been a back shoulder underthrown purposely. You're right. It may have been. Again, you got to be fair with all of this because we're only watching clips. We don't know what led up to that. I guess the reason, my counterpoint to that was from the clip I saw, it didn't look like the position of the field where you would throw that. Like Deuce wasn't in the end zone. You feel me? Like, and it didn't look like he was running down the sideline either. It looked like he was in the middle of the field. Like, I don't know if he ran like a post route or I can't call the route. Obviously, I don't know. It didn't look like it was down the sideline though. So I'm not sure you would want to throw that ball like that. But again, it's it's one scrimmage. That's why I say don't get too high, don't get too up. But the question was what I thought about that particular throw. And good adjustment on the ball, good catch. I'm not so sure that pass was where it was supposed to be. But then again, I don't know the situation. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish on that particular play. I did not watch Gus's interview, to Matt J's point. So I only watched Tony today. I did not watch Gus. I wasn't able to check Gus out. But I definitely want to hear what Tony had to say. Well, that's why you bring in the 6'6" wide receiver. Again, you don't have to necessarily love the pass, right? And again, we don't know what was trying to be accomplished on that pass. Was it underthrown? Was it purposely thrown that way? Whatever. But that's why you bring in a 6'6" wide receiver, right? That's why you bring in a 6'6" wide receiver. So he can make those adjustments. And a quarterback that hasn't been historically accurate, especially with his deep throws and Thomas Castellanos, if the numbers support what I'm saying, you don't need him to be. You just need him to put in the vicinity of your 6'6" wide receiver. So that's. What's with the media asking both Gus and Tony who will be in the booth as as far as staff? Does this tip a hat to something? I hope neither one of them are in the booth. Gus isn't a booth coach. I don't think he's ever been in the booth. I could be wrong about that. I don't think Gus has ever been in the booth. I don't necessarily see him being in the booth. And I don't know if Tony's ever been in the booth. So probably neither one of them two. When's the last time FSU has had a coach in the booth? Atkins wasn't. Fuller wasn't. I'm trying to think of who's the last coach, coordinator-wise, that was Kenny in the booth at all? I don't remember. I don't feel like Mike puts his coordinators in the booth. So that could be something to watch going forward. But I can't recall Mike Norvell putting any coordinators in the booth. What's up, Tevin? You put Mike Norvell in the booth. You said it, Panama. I didn't say it. If I would have said it, then I'm a hater and I'm all these things. But Panama said, he said, put Mike Norvell ass in the booth. I can't even dispute it. Like how Cam Newton said, be a game time manager, extend the play. There you go. Take care of the football, make the correct play, extend plays when needed. You do those things, TC can be successful. Yeah, because they're not given the same access that they've had. So they gotta pull at straws. Good question from 850. He says, what do you think of Amari maybe playing two-way ball? I think he's going to. I'm not a big fan of it because of the positions. Travis Hunter got away with it because corner and receiver are kind of the same. Like, they're obviously not exactly the same, but corner and receiver are kind of the same position, right? Out on an island, it's just running, catching the ball. For a receiver, got to block every now and then. For a corner, got to tackle every now and then. That transition is a little bit more more seamless. DN is a very demanding position, man. I am not a fan of. Here's the thing: FSU has so many tight ends now. Lofton, Pittman, Thomas. Now you've moved Bryson Estes over there. Marcus and Douglas. I mean, I just named you 5 tight ends. I don't necessarily see the point where I think Amari could be I'm not saying he is this player, especially when this player was at his best. But this, Amari Thomas could be a Harold Perkins, man. He could be like a specialized pass rusher. But I feel like it takes away from those reps when you're just playing him, when you're trying to appease him. Because I know he was promised that he was going to play both sides, and they want to play both sides. But I think he could be a special difference maker on the defensive end. And it's needed. FSU needs a pass rusher opposite of James Williams. Who is that guy? Is it James Jones? He's emerging apparently. But who is that pass rusher opposite of James? Amari fits that bill, but when you're taking away reps because he wants to do other things, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it, 850. Yeah, put Pat. Yeah, that's actually a good one. I don't even know if you're trying to be funny, but yeah, put Coach Pop in there. He's a special team coach anyways. Put him in there. Yes, we talked about Charles Lester. Kai Bates had some good things, talked about him. Offensively, you keep hearing good stuff about Chroma and Sawchuk. So actually, I think I heard some good or relative good stuff about Cam Davis, how he's kind of getting it together. BJ Gibson. That, again, we talk about players. We know who's going to be. We know who has to be good. But we're talking about the players that can come and emerge and make your team more dynamic. That BJ Gibson's an athlete, man. Maybe the best dual sport athlete we've had since Jameis Winston. He's a good baseball player too. I saw some stuff in that scrimmage with BJ that I liked. Can he be a contributor? I hope so. It seemed that they were asking Gus and Tony. It wasn't for them, but maybe coaches each side of the ball. At least that's how I understood that question. Maybe Tim Harris or an Arnett. Arnett makes sense because he's an analyst anyway. He's not an on-field coach, so there's no reason for him to really be on the sidelines. I don't even know if he's allowed to be on the sidelines as an analyst. For that matter, I don't think he would be allowed to be in the booth as an analyst. I'm not sure what the rules are for the analyst thing, but Arnett is not a person that would be coaching a position. So in the booth makes 100% sense for him. John, come on. Don't even ask a crazy question like that. I'm here win, lose, or draw. So. Was it really Mark Rick? I feel like Jimbo had somebody in the booth at one point. I feel like we've had coaches in the booth since. Maybe I'm wrong. What's up, Randy? How you been? I'm glad that you're home safe. Caveman, I don't know if you spoke on this already, but how did the running backs do in the scrimmage? Haven't really talked much on the backs. But again, I think, you keep hearing good stuff about Chroma. I think it was Mike Norvell. I think it was Mike Norvell saying that because I did. So the other interviews came out today. Mike Norvell's post-scrimmage interview came out last night. And he specifically talked about Chroma. And one of the things that was very intriguing or good to hear about Chroma, because y'all know my stance on Chroma. I think Chroma can be great. As a freshman, I don't believe or don't think you should put all that on his plate at once. One thing Mike said, he did great at blitz pickup. Well, that's going to get him on the field. He can run a 4.2, have the agility of Barry Sanders, the power of Adrian Peterson or Marshawn Lynch, the vision of LaDainian Tomlinson. He can be all of that. If he can't pick up the blitzes, he can't be on the field. Because your quarterback needs to, your offensive line, all of that stuff still needs to take time. If the back can't pick up a blitz, identify where pressure's coming from, the offensive line can only block so many. There's only 5 of those guys. The tight ends. So hearing that he was able to pick up blitz, identify those things, that's going to get him on the field. And that's going to keep him on the field. And I thought that was very, very good to hear. So that is a good sign for Chroma. And again, I'm a guy that said don't rush him out there. But if he's the best player, and if you're telling me he's already identifying blitz packages and he can identify the blitz and block it, I mean, we've all seen Chroma, right? He's a man-child. Then that's going to get him on the field and keep him on the football field. I don't know if that's true. Glenn did not scrimmage, but that's because of a short-term injury, according to Mike Norvell, not because they're liking one guy over the other. Polk, I need TC to handle business on Bama's defense, like how Lamar. I don't know if TC got Lamar Jackson in on Tevin. Wishful thinking. I would love to see it. Don't get me wrong. Jeff says if he's already picking up the blitzes and blocking, then he's going to be out there pretty quick. Yes, 100% agree. You're absolutely right, Jeff. If he's already doing those things, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So offensively, both sides of the ball seem to be very happy with how they performed. Again, so some of the big names, the Twins, man, the Twins. I think FSU got a steal maybe with these Twins, man. And again, I don't put a lot of stock in freshmen. And just to play a little devil's advocate, your head coach is trying, your head coach, the coordinators, whatever, they're all trying to instill confidence, especially in these freshmen, because they may be asked to be counted on. But notice you haven't heard the reason why I take it for more than just talk. I don't know about y'all. I still ain't heard nothing about Tylon Lee. I ain't heard a lick. I ain't heard nothing about LaJesse Harold. Ain't heard a lick. But the Sear twins, they continuously get mentioned. I think that's a positive sign going forward, man. I ain't heard nothing about the JUCO transfer, Tylen Coleman. What about Diggs? Anybody heard anything about Diggs? Nope. I'm just going down a list of like defensive players that we're not hearing about. But the fact that the Twins keep getting mentioned, I think says that they are exceeding a little bit of the expectations and can be in the rotation. Kevin Wynn is going to be in that rotation, low-key just by default, because you don't have another player on that roster remotely with the same body type to Daryl at 6'6", 320. Kevin's the next guy up to fill that role. You don't really have another guy that can do that. So Kevin's gonna play. But the Twins, man, I like what I'm hearing about the Twins. Smithing says identifying blessings of being violent at the point of contact and staying on the block. Those are the things that get me excited. Top 3 incoming freshman running back talent. Love it, bro. I agree with you. Love it. I think so I'm going to say this. This might be a little bit of I don't know if this is a bold take. Y'all let me know. This might sneakily be, I think this is a bold take what I'm about to say, but there's a part of me that's going to stick with this because either one or two things are true. I'll phrase it this way. Either one or two things are true. This team that's coming on the field this year has less talent than we anticipate. Or this might be, and the ranking system might not show it, this might be Norvell's best freshman class he's had. Like, I think the emergence of Boggs isn't, and if you remember, when we broke down the recruiting class, who was my favorite player in the class? Who did I say was an absolute steal in the dog? It was Boggs. Well, I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Twins and Wynn, right? Like a lot of freshmen, I think Tony White even mentioned, what's his name? What's the corner's name? I forgot his name that quick. The corner, the actual Seminole. What's his name, guys? Tony Wynn even mentioned him. Tony Wynn. Who the hell is Tony Wynn? Tony White even mentioned him. I think that's intriguing, man. Yeah, I got a sugar-free Red Bull. Got to try to watch my sugar intake. What do y'all feel about what I'm saying, though? Either this team lacks major talent, which is why we're seeing a lot more freshmen, which there was expectation. Like, no doubt that this team isn't a top-tier talent team. But it's still Florida State. They're still talent. I'm not claiming that, this team isn't as talented as hell. I don't personally know if this team is as talented as last year's team. Zay Thomas. I'm not sure if this year is more talented than last year's team. Just top to bottom. I think this team will play better. Definitely not more talented than 2 years ago. What's up, Nixon? I don't know, man. I have a sneaky good. I'm starting to get sneaky good feelings about this freshman class. And again, I'm not getting over myself. I'm not getting ahead of myself. I wouldn't expect, like, you're not going to get a Jeremiah Smith out there. And when I say Jeremiah Smith, obviously Boggs won't be Jeremiah Smith. I don't think. One, won't have the quarterback. 2, he's just not Jeremiah Smith, because that's Jeremiah Smith. But that doesn't mean that these freshmen might be better than I think we're anticipating. And again, that's not me being facetious. Like I don't say things that I don't believe. So I'm starting to get a little optimistic here, man. Again, telling a little bit of lies. What's up, Brandon? Yeah, I haven't heard anything about Hussey. Has anyone seen Ty? How good is he? Random question from Perry. But who do you think is more reliable? FSU source between Aslan and Brendan Sano. You want me to be honest with you? I'm gonna legit answer this question. If we're talking strictly about sources, Brendan Sano, and it's not close. I've said this repeatedly when it comes to 247, and I know this is off topic. I don't hate 247 for the information. When they break news, it's usually accurate. I don't like their football evals. I don't think the guys, not all of them, but I don't like when they try to tell you who looks good and bad. I don't trust that. But if they're just breaking news, those guys are pretty accurate for the most part. Aslan, I've just never been a fan of, but that's whatever. Arnaud, I think Tony White mentioned Arnaud as well. But Zay Thomas got mentioned. I think the coaching staff that he's put together is a better recruiters, better player developers of football players. The Nebraska DN will be more than a third down option based off his size. He may need to bulk up a little. You talking about James? I think James is going to be an every down player for you. He was an every down player for you at Nebraska, and that's Big Ten football where they got them country-fed offensive linemen. So James can play every down in the ACC. I don't think that's a concern personally, Panama. I don't think that's a concern at all. If he was coming from another school, maybe, but the man played at Nebraska. And I'm not saying Nebraska was great. I'm simply saying that Nebraska played in Big Ten football. Jeff compares the talent on this team to 2022. It's not a terrible comparison. My major pushback with that would be quarterback and pass rusher. 2022, you still had Verse and Pat and Farmer. And, of course, who your quarterback was. That's when JT, 2022, in my opinion, is JT's best year playing quarterback. Even better than 2023. 2023 is not even a knock on JT. I believe the play calling hurt JT because they were so focused on getting Keon Coleman jump balls. In 2022, you saw Jordan Travis use the whole field. So if TC can be that, then sure. So those are the only two pushbacks, right? Quarterback and pass rusher. But wide receivers look sneakily similar. Johnny Wilson and Ontario Wilson. Yeah, I can see Squirrel and Deuce being very similar to that. I mean, you still had Trey Benson in 22. I don't know. You probably don't have a Trey Benson, but you got a combination of guys. O-line, I would argue O-line's probably about the same. O-line might be better than 2022. Might be. Your backers, too. I can't forget your backers, man. You had Tatum and you had Deloach. So I can't forget the backers. Now, the backers remain to be seen, like the numbers there. And then in 2022, you also had Jamie. Jarian wasn't Jarian in 2022 yet. We still had Jamie Robinson, Ronaldo. Not a bad comparison, Jeff. I actually don't mind that. Yeah, I don't think Shaheem's going to start either, and I'm with you. I'm okay with that. Appreciate that, Antonio. Probably none in the scrimmage, obviously, because you can't even touch the guy, so it's unfair to the defense for you to call a design run for a guy you can't tackle. So probably none in the defense. I think they definitely will be a part of the playbook. How many? is going to be the question. I'm not sure, but they'll definitely have some design runs. They shouldn't be unless they're just, if they're just that guy. Boggs is getting a lot of Rashad Green comparisons. What do y'all think of that? Boggs is getting a lot of Rashad Green comparisons. Polk, I think our media is mercenaries. Dupree says we don't know what the team is yet. We absolutely don't know what the team is yet. Don't disagree with you, right? Don't disagree with that at all. Especially after one scrimmage. Can't say what the team is yet. All we could evaluate is the talent. How they play on the field, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation. But there's a reason, there's a reason why we have the preseason. There's a reason why people have year-round jobs covering football, because we can look at a roster and go, okay, they're talented in these positions, right? What's up, Peter? So I covered this a little bit early, but Terrell asked, and I'll kind of rehash it. The 6 sacks is a concern for the O-line, again, or the D-line. Basically, the 6 sacks are concerned. They ran 110 plays. Tony specifically said, let me go back to the 6 sacks. He said there were 6 sacks that they should have had. So they didn't get those 6 sacks because whether TC using his legs or Kevin Sperry using his legs, whatever, he counted 6 sacks that they should have had that they didn't have. He didn't mention how many sacks they actually had. I think there is, in my opinion, a level of, maybe a small level of concern, because 6 sacks is a lot. Again, teams go weeks without acquiring 6 sacks. Some teams go weeks without giving up 6 sacks. So 6 sacks is a high number for one scrimmage, I think. And that's just the sacks that they missed. What if they got another 6 sacks? That's 12 sacks in one scrimmage out of 110 plays. I don't know. How should we feel about that? KCS says that's a good point. Williams was playing against O-line dudes that maybe only Clemson has. I mean, yeah, in the Big Ten, he was playing Big Ten ball, and he was playing well. So I'm not concerned about James. I know he looks. They say he weighs like 250, but I know he does. He looks on the leaner side. I will agree that he looks lean, but I don't think it's a concern. Miami probably has the best O-line. To Galaxy's point, you triggered him with that comment. Miami probably has the best O-line in the ACC. They at least have the best. They have the best single O-lineman for sure in Maui Goa. They probably have the best collective group too. Who would you rather have on this team, Jermaine or Verse? Wow, great question. I don't think there's a wrong answer, Colin. Pick your poison, because I don't think there's a wrong answer. Polk, I think Tylen Lee has to get used to playing with his size. Dude gained a lot of weight between high school. Yeah, he's up to like the 280s, 270s. And that could be why we're just not hearing him. He's probably, maybe they're playing him more inside than at the edge. So maybe he's just getting used to where he has to play. There's a whole lot of possibilities there. Jeff says, I don't put a lot of stock in that first scrimmage. Me neither, to be fair. I think once you get to that last scrimmage, we'll have more of an idea. This O-line will be better than 2022 if we stay healthy. Also, this tight end room, I agree with you. I agree with you on the tight end room for sure. And I agree with everything actually in that comment. I think talent-wise, I think that this O-line is better than 2022, top to bottom in talent. Got to stay healthy. And I do think the tight ends are more dynamic. Who were the tight ends in 2022? It's actually a good question. I don't even remember. Who were your tight ends in 22? Morlock wasn't there yet. I don't think, right? Morlock wasn't there. No, Morlock wasn't there. Was it Marcus and Douglas? Like, was he your starting tight? Who was your starting tight end in 22? Actually, a good question. You know who I think it was? I think it was that UCLA transfer. I forget his name. Definitely a more dynamic tight end room for sure, 100%. 100%. That's true. Green could take a 5-yard hitch, a curl, a 5-yard in, a dig route, and take that thing 30, 40 to the house. I don't know if Boggs can do that. Green could do that. I said, Polk, you said it. What'd I say? Island Boy says he'll take Jermaine. Yeah, I don't think you can go wrong. Who I got between UF and that's a great question, actually, Perry. Florida's got an injury bug right now. A lot of their wide receivers are hurt. I mean, I heard Dallas Wilson went down today. Hopefully it's not like a long-term thing for him. And Lagway's been hurt. Florida's got an injury bug that's hard. It's going to be hard to pick them right now. When it comes to UM, my biggest questions about UM is simple. Has the defense improved? Because if the defense hasn't improved, Anthony says, I'm more concerned with the penalties that White said kept the drives going. And that's fair. But penalties, I think penalties will get cleaned up. As long as they're not the stupid penalties that we've seen kind of in the past, like the mental ones, like jumping off sides, things of that nature, you definitely like gotta get a hold of that. If it's from like kind of just being a little bit too aggressive, I much rather hear that they're being aggressive than not being aggressive. But I think you can clean those up. Was it Cam McDonald in 22? Was it him? I feel like Cam was gone by then. But you might be right. I really don't remember. Preston Daniels. We didn't have a good tight end room at all in 22. I have a concern on how the coaches treat this Bama game. If we get down by 14, do they try to get managers or risk players' health all season? They're going to coach to win it. At some point, if it gets out of hand, you do got to say, you got to ask. You got to ask, do you pull player? But they're going to play to win. So it's going to be that's a tough question to answer. Cam, Wyatt, freaking Rector. Man, I did not know Cam McDonald was still on the team then, but that's what's up. Again, the point still stands. This is a better tight end room than that room for sure. Oh, that's right. We did talk about Miami, and they're not a part of the conversation, so. So, yeah, I think all in all, like you got a lot of things that you should be encouraged about, but we got to take everything in stride. I don't think the ceiling for this team has changed off of one scrimmage, but it's good to hear that there are players that are emerging that, again, we're not expecting to emerge. I think that is a plus, and that's something that you have to look to optimistically. Again, in that second, because I think they're doing a total of 3 scrimmages this offseason. Are some of those players still playing? It's not even about playing hard per se. Just do they still got it? Do they still care as much? I mean, we're just wrapping up week 1. What happens at the end of week 2? They get tired of hitting each other. They get tired of – it is hot as hell this summer. It's August. August is notoriously the hottest month of the year. When we talk about – those dog days of summer, are Jaden Jones, as those freshmen, are they still being mentioned as difference makers? So that is a legit question to have. Perry says, who do you got? Texas, Ohio State, Clemson, LSU. I got Ohio State over Texas. I don't know. I got to see the Arch Manning hype train. I really do. Got to see that in action. And then as far as that, I'm gonna pick. So that Clemson LSU game has me a little torn. Brian Kelly, I don't believe, can lose another opener. But I'm leaning slightly towards LSU because I believe they have a sense of urgency this year. But if you pick Clemson, I understand why. And that's not a knock on Clemson because I think Clemson has a legit team. I just, Brian Kelly, boy, if you lose to Clemson, you lose another opener. He hasn't won an opener since he's been at LSU. If you lose another one, like if you can't beat Clemson, are you really gonna win the SEC? You got the quarterback. Well, you had the quarterback when you had Jaden Daniels. Brian Kelly's lack of success isn't because he's had a lack of players. That's the problem with LSU. I'm kind of leaning towards LSU because I think they break that. But again, I wouldn't put money on it. I'm not gonna bet against Clemson in that game. Colin says, you think the Heat and home field advantage plays a role in week one? No. Definitely not the Heat. Bama's hot as hell too. So definitely not the Heat. I think FSU fans will show up in force. But the problem with that is it's not like Alabama isn't accustomed to playing in large, loud stadiums. So, no, what's going to make the difference is talent on the field, not the heat and not the fans. What's going to make the difference is, do you have better players on the field? And if the talent level is somewhat even, coaching, those are the things that are going to make the difference. Yeah, Tyler says it. It's hot in Bama too. So he says home field does count for something though. And so we'll see. And then we got to see, man, how loud are we? FSU just took 20,000 fans out of the stands with the renovations. Whether you believe that's a good or bad thing, we'll find out. We're going to see how loud that stadium gets. I've been in that stadium against Miami with 80 plus in the seats. It gets loud, and I was on the field, so I was hearing what the players were hearing. Is that minus of 20,000 fans going to make a huge difference? Well, we'll find out. We'll find out. White said there was players that expect to play good. Yeah, I talked about that at the beginning of the stream. One of the most quotable things you can take from his interview is there were players that definitely stood out, and there's players that they are expecting so much from that aren't playing up to par. He didn't name those players. I wouldn't expect the coach to. You want to motivate them by sending a message, which he absolutely sent that message. He said if they're not playing up to standard, they won't play a snap. I think his exact words was, I think he cursed with it, like they won't play a damn snap for you. But, of course, he didn't call anybody out specifically, and I wouldn't expect him to. You don't throw a guy under the bus and shatter his confidence or whatever the case may be. But, yeah, as much as we talk about guys on the field that are exceeding expectations, Tony alluded to guys that aren't living up to those expectations. Again, he didn't name them. You can maybe we can sit here and try to theorize who he's referring to. Never take Brian Kelly. Tyler says he'd rather get Bama in week 1, though. He says Mike's best games have been week 1 games. Well, except for Georgia Tech. But I hear you. Especially those 2 wins at LSU. For some reason, we can't beat Georgia Tech. Mike lost to Georgia Tech his first game at Florida State. I don't know. When's the last time FSU's beat Georgia? We can't beat Georgia Tech, man. Can't beat Georgia Tech. I don't know what it is about Georgia Tech. I don't remember the last time we beat Georgia Tech. Does anybody remember the last time FSU beat Georgia Tech? Because we lost to them last year. We lost to them in 2020, COVID year. We lost to them 2015 on that blocked field goal. When's the last time we've beaten Georgia Tech, man? I believe he stands on it. I think the one thing going in Tony White's favor is that, again, he has no reason, maybe other than James, because James came with him from Nebraska. Who's he tied to? Tony has no reason to stick with any player. He's got nothing to prove. 90% of that defensive roster isn't the guys that Tony White recruited. He's got a few guys. Again, he got James that he brought from Nebraska. He's got a few guys that he's coached at Syracuse and other places like Stephen Thompson and Jeremiah Wilson. But for the most part, Tony don't have any allegiance to any of these other guys. I don't see why he would, or why you don't trust. I trust that the best will play. KCS, I done worked on farms in both Florida and Bama. You can keep that Bama heat. Man, heat is, like I'm out here in the desert, man, and this heat is crazy. This heat is nasty work. Heat is heat. Now there's humid heat and dry heat. That humid heat is a whole different monster than the dry heat. But man, hot is hot. Hell, I've been to Kuwait. That's the hottest I've ever been in my life. But I've been to Korea too. If you think Florida's humid, Korea is a whole different type of humid. Korea's so humid that you can't breathe. So every place, man. Heat is nasty work. I went back and watched Bama's L's from last year. Vanderbilt, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Michigan. That O-line struggles. They weren't great last year, to your point. We'll see how they play this year. They don't have 5 players like Caden Proctor. Milroe got them out of a lot of trouble. So we got to see how did Bama adjust, or how did they build upon that O-line. I would agree with you. That Bama O-line wasn't great last year. And does FSU have the personnel to take advantage of it? We played Georgia Tech in 2022. Did we? Damn, why? I feel like I don't remember that game. Not saying you're wrong, Matt. I don't remember that game. I guess we did. We beat them in 22. They're saying 2014 is the last time we beat them in the ACC championship. No, but they're saying we beat them in 2022. Beat the hell out of them. Man, I for some reason don't remember that game. Y'all got it, though. I'm not saying y'all wrong. I just honestly don't remember that game. Georgia Tech just seems to have our number, though, is the point that I was getting. Maurice says he's saying it now. FSU will win the Natty. This year? Hey, man, Maurice, you allowed to say what you want, man. Who wins that second corner spot? Okay. I'll answer that. Is Jeremiah? Jeremiah is probably the first, right? That's the guy we're saying is the corner 1. I think it's going to be Rawls. They've talked Rawls up a lot this offseason. Tony Wilders went as far as to call Rawls an NFL prospect. So unless we think that there's multiple NFL prospects in that secondary, which isn't above the possibility with the way they've recruited that position, I would say Rawls as of right now, though. I would say Rawls as of right now. Just based off coach talk. Can't base it off anything other than what's being kind of like put out there in the space. So Rawls, again, guys like Rawls, Edwin, Q, those are probably the guys competing for that second corner spot. Jeff says, yeah, but who's your safeties? I don't think so. He says Shy and Ed at safety. Matt, I think it's Earl, and I don't know if they're going to play Edwin at safety. I think Earl's going to be one of those safeties. And we keep saying Rover, bro. I listened to Earl Little. He had an interview not too long ago, a couple of days ago, as a matter of fact. He described what the Rover position is nothing but it's a safety. It's just another name for a strong safety. So the question is, who's playing alongside Earl? That's what I think the real question is. I don't think it's going to be Edwin at safety. Shaheem seems to be down the depth chart right now. If you ask me right now, I think it's probably KJ. KJ, Kirkland, and Earl might be your two starting safeties, and I ain't mad at that. I'm not mad at that at all. I like Edwin too. Edwin might be your slot guy. I think he got Rawls and Jeremiah on the outside, and then I think you got Edwin at nickel. I think Edwin's your slot, your third corner. Anthony says KJ, Earl, Edwin, they playing three on the back end. So I got two all right. I guess maybe Edwin is moving to safety if that's the case. And Dupree says it's Earl and KJ at safety. So yeah. KCS with the $10, $9.99. Thank you for the love, KC. My dog says, who you got winning the ACC? I'm trying to highlight your it won't show for some reason. I'm trying to highlight your there we go. Hold on. Bro, what is going on with my computer? There we go. He says, who's winning the ACC? Which major school fires their coach first? Does Franklin's seat get hot when Penn State loses 3 games? I'm with you on that Penn State thing, though I don't think Franklin's seat – I'll get into that conversation here in a minute. And which game does Mario cost Miami this year? Well, you brought up Mario. I think you did that on purpose. But to answer the question directly, let's start and just go down. I think Clemson is going to win the ACC. Which major school fires that? I think Brian Kelly's on the hot seat. I think Lincoln Riley's on the hot seat. Those are the kind of the two names as major schools that I would go, yeah, they Brian Kelly, like, again, you lose that Clemson game, and I think the talk for Brian Kelly is going to get big. Lincoln Riley has not done what people thought he was going to do at USC. I think that is a conversation that heats up if they're mediocre again. So those are probably the two. And as far as Franklin, I don't believe in the Penn State hype either, KCS, but here's the question. If you're Penn State. Here's the question if you're Penn State. And the same question that people ask me all the time when I say, hey, get rid of Mike. What's the coach that Penn State could realistically hire? And this is way different than the Florida State question about firing Norvell. Because with Penn State, they're in the mix every single year. who's the coach that you would theoretically hire to take the next step over a guy like James Franklin? I'm not sure that guy's out there. Not that Penn State can go get. Like, Penn State's not going to go get Dan Lanning from Oregon. I don't believe that. So who's the guy? Who's the guy that Penn State can hire? I don't know if that guy exists. I really think Penn State would be better off keeping Franklin, regardless if they lose 3 games this year. And I know there's a lot of people think they're on par to win the Big Ten this year. And from a talent perspective, that's a good pick. The problem with Penn State is they can't beat Michigan year after year. They can't beat Ohio State. So that's at least – I don't even know if they play both this year or not. So that's at least 2 losses. I got to look at Penn State's schedule. But Penn State can't usually beat the heavy hitters in the Big Ten. And then which game does Mario cost Miami this year? Ha. Florida State. That's the game. Florida State. And thank you for that. Again, thank you for that super chat. My guy, KCS, I appreciate you.
I'm in Tallahassee, I'm with the Seminoles. I've been getting to this paper, focus on my goals. Trying to run this money up and pull up in the road. All these talking gangster, that shit getting old.
Anthony asks a pretty good question. I think Tony White's alluded to it. Pat Surtain's alluded to it. Even the players have alluded to it. This is going to be more of a zone defense than the historically man-to-man defense that we've played over the years. All the DBs are talking about having their eyes in the backfield more. Coaches are talking about having, their eyes at the quarterback most of the time, strictly talking secondary, which Pat Surtain talked about it, generating more turnovers possibly because it's harder to get turnovers when you're playing man-to-man because your back's to the quarterback and these things. So I think you're going to see a team that plays a lot more zone in that back end. Dupree thinks Brent Venables. I'm not there with Brent yet. I understand why Brent Venables is a pick. I think Brent Venables, he'll have a little bit more opportunities. And my man Peter Shields with the $5 super sticker. And no, it doesn't show up on the screen, but, it's a little emoji thing with the pair. Appreciate that, Peter, for the love and support.
Yeah, more money. Yeah, more money. Yeah.
Jeff with a $10. He says, I got a question. If we do well this year, Gus leaves, Eddie fire Lincoln Riley. Do you hire him as your offensive coordinator? Because he's a good coordinator. I don't know if Lincoln's a name. So answer this question 2 ways. I don't think Gus leaves, even if this is a top 5 offense. I don't think Gus is going anywhere because I honestly don't think Gus has any one. He quit by his own fruition. I think Gus I don't think Gus has any. I think Gus is kind of done being a head coach. At least that's my feel. So as long as Mike Norvell's here, I think Gus will be here. And if a team maybe offers Gus enough money, I mean, who's Gus? He's not going to turn down if a team if a team wants to fire their head coach and pay Gus $10 million a year, then Gus probably will take that job. But for the most part, I think Gus will be here. Lincoln Riley, though, is again, it's a big name, and I don't disagree with you. He can recruit, especially from quarterbacks. He's going to recruit a quarterback, and he can recruit offensive players. I just don't know if that offensive fit is FSU brand. So there's that, right? That's a big question, I think. I don't know if Lincoln Riley would be. I guess that'd be a guy that you vet, but I just don't know. I don't know. It wouldn't be the worst hire. Just don't know how feasible that is. I think Mateer at QB is nice and helps Venables keep his job. Plus, they bought it. Yeah, I think. I think Dupree said it. To his point, though, with the quarterback, with the guy they got from Cal, probably, arguably, definitely the best running back in the portal. With the addition of those two guys, if Venables has another disappointing season, then yeah, he's on the hot seat because now you have this subsequent talent that you should be better. But I do think that those additions help Venables keep his job because I don't expect Oklahoma to like win the SEC, but I don't expect them to be terrible this year to that point. Matt Campbell, good name, good coach. He's been at Iowa State for a while. I just don't, does he take you over the hump more? I don't know. I just don't know that, if he takes you over the hump. I'll let y'all address John in the comments. But yeah, I think interesting football season with, all the things that, there may be some coaches that are on the hot seat if teams don't live up to expectations. And if FSU has another disappointing season, like Mike has to make at least a bowl game. If they drop games that they're not supposed to, I think Mike Norvell is on that hot seat too. So we'll see, man. We'll see how that plays out. And Dupree says Gus is enjoying less responsibilities. I agree with that. This is why I don't necessarily foresee Gus leaving. Again, now if the team offers you enough money, you're not gonna. It's kind of a Venables situation where Venables, he really didn't want to, stop being a defensive coordinator. Was his bread and butter, man. He, one of the best, if not the best D coordinator in the game, year in and year out. He had no desire to be a head coach. I think Oklahoma offered him a bag that he couldn't refuse and an opportunity that he wasn't going to turn down, and so he took that shot. So something similar to that, I think, for Gus. I think Gus is kind of where he wants to be in terms of his job, being an offensive coordinator. But you never know, man. Oklahoma fires not Lincoln Riley. Oklahoma fires Venables, like we're talking about. Who's to say they don't take a shot at a Gus Malzahn? Hell, Hugh Freeze, man. Talk about hot seat. Hugh Freeze should be on that hot seat because Auburn, I don't know, bro. I don't think Auburn's going to be too much better than they've been. Something's up with Auburn. There's something about Auburn where Hugh can recruit, and then that recruiting hasn't resulted in any type of on the field progress, in my opinion, over the last couple of years for Auburn. So Hugh Freeze could be on that. Could Gus end up back in Auburn? Maybe. I don't know. You can make an argument that they should have never fired Gus the way the hires have played out since. They should have let Gus stay. Matt Campbell's a bad name. Well, Miami doesn't know what it's like to win bowl games, baby. Man, we keep talking about Miami. When I say Gus is leaving, I meant retiring. I don't think he would do that to Norvell after 1 year. I don't think he would have one good season and then retire on Mike. I think maybe 2 or 3 years down the road, if this becomes a stable thing, Mike Norvell gets turned around, then you could see that. I don't think after 1 year he would retire. There's a few of these older coaches who are not fans of this NIL stuff. And Dupree said it too. He said Gus ain't retiring after a year. I'm saying Hugh Freeze we talk about coaches on the hot seat. I think Hugh Freeze is on Probably on that list, man. KCS, I sure all these coaches love coaching, but these dudes are making millions upon millions. I don't think these coaches care getting fired. They don't care. No, because you look at the buyouts. If I'm a coach, why you think Mike Norvell really cares about getting fired? The man's got like a $50 million buyout or whatever it is. The man's gonna make you're gonna pay Mike Norvell one huge lump sum to go away. Hell, you pay Willie $20 million to go away. These buyouts are ridiculous. These coaches don't necessarily. It doesn't mean they're not trying to be great. But to your point, with the level of buyout, being a coach, being a head football coach at a major university is arguably the best job in the world because you got a $8 to $10 million salary yearly, and if you completely suck at your job, teams are going to pay you 20, 30, 40 million to go away. That is a win-win situation. That is a win-win situation for any coach. The fear of being fired until college football fixes those buyouts, man. And Sexton and them boys, they got a lock on these contracts. I don't foresee that happening. Getting fired is probably the last thing these coaches care about. Maybe not good, but if Tony White's looking for a head coaching job, I think it wouldn't surprise me if he would leave for 1 year. Tony White is more of a concern, to your point, Jeff, than Gus would be. Only because Tony White is considered one of the, up-and-coming coaches in all the football. Some people think that he's maybe should have had a head coaching opportunities already. If FSU's defense is a top 25 defense, there's a very good chance that a team says, hey, Tony, come get your first head coaching job here. The one thing I think playing in your favor is I think it would have to be a major job. Tony White's not going to leave Nebraska, come to Florida State for a year, and take the UAB head coaching job. I don't believe so. He would need to take a major program. So I think that might be one thing that maybe works in your benefit is the programs that would maybe, or that the programs that Tony White would want to coach at, right? I don't think you have to worry about him leaving for, again, some like group of 5 school or something like that. I think it would be a major school. But a good year from Tony, I think teams will, take a shot. Take a shot. Funny thing about Miami is, here we go, man. We're talking about Miami again. Is they had a QB. They had the schedule, and they still didn't make the conference championship game, nor the playoff. Hey, John, he said it, not me. All-time fumble by Mario, and the fans don't care at all. John in here hate watching the FSU pod. Hey, that's what John does, man. Him, Dennis, they're my resident haters. They're going to come in here and talk. It's all good, though. I ain't mad at it. As long as you don't ask to lick my feet. As long as you don't do that, we're good. Watching that Bama versus Vandy game is crazy when you really go back and watch a bunch of 2-stars running around and outplaying all the 5-stars. A dual threat QB in Pavia, that is super confident. So are you saying that FSU don't got a bunch of 2-stars, but they got this dual threat? Are you saying that FSU has more than just a shot to beat Bama? Is that what you're trying to say? That's what I feel like you're alluding to. Right, but, you can't take, we'll see. We'll see. Corey, what's good, man? I wish Tony could coach here, but I know FSU is only going to try one time with the melanated person. Thanks, Willie. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I think Tony White will be on the short list of teams if major teams do some firing. Also, man, a lot of the major programs, I mean, I guess Georgia being an exception, Bama I won't even say Bama because Bama went and hired an offensive coach. Most of the major teams look like they usually go after offensive-minded coaches. I mean, I know Georgia went with Kirby, but before Kirby, it was Mark Richt, an offensive coach. I don't know what for some reason programs look to offensive-minded coaches to be head coaches more so than defensive coaches for whatever reason. Not sure why. Not sure why. DeBoer still has that Pac-12 defense. Mobile QBs cook them. We'll see, man. And it's not just the scrimmage. I'll be honest with you. Y'all know me. I'm not fickle, but I'm more confident. I'm more optimistic than I was a week or two ago. And it's not just from the scrimmage. Again, one scrimmage, I wouldn't take that. I wouldn't put any stock in one scrimmage. But it is, and again, I hope these names have to continue to produce, but it is the mentioning of certain guys that I didn't expect to hear. Like James Jones has me super intrigued because he's a guy that when we got him, I knew he was coming off a knee injury. I didn't know how far he was along in his process of recovery. Apparently, it was 2 years of recovery for him. But he's a guy that when you got him, I said, okay, you're getting a legit 6'5", 250, 240-pound defensive end, the number one JUCO defensive end in the country. That counts for something. Unfortunately, we didn't get anything out of him again for 2 years. But if y'all remember Josh Sweat, and I'm not comparing him to Josh Sweat by any stretch of the imagination, but Josh Sweat, it took him like 3 years to bounce back from that horrific knee injury that he had in high school. He was the number one overall player in the country. We didn't get that at Florida State because he spent the first 2 years of his rehab process. Then he had his third year, solid year, but then he has no one would have suspected Josh Sweat's NFL career to be as good as it's been based on his college career. But he was rehabbing for 3 years off of a knee injury, and he had a very bad one. Josh Sweat they said his knee injury was just as bad as Mackenzie Milton's. And, there was talks that Mackenzie Milton could have lost his leg and all of that. But Josh Sweat had that caliber of a knee injury. So hearing Jaden Jones is like putting it all together and he's healthy now. One thing I always say about when it comes to football, you don't coach. You can't coach size and you can't coach speed. Jaden's putting it together and he's back from that knee injury. Hey, man. That's a reason to get, right? It's a reason to get excited, I think, or have some optimism. Muschamp, he was the defensive coordinator at Texas, and yes, we know and it didn't work out. Something about, again, head programs not usually taking those defensive-minded coaches. They usually go for offensive coaches. Sometimes it works. Again, Kirby worked out. Saban worked out. Those are two defensive coaches. I'm trying to think of other defensive coaches that worked out. I mean, you can argue that Mark Stoops has worked. I mean, it's Kentucky. So what is the ceiling for Kentucky? I think Mark Stoops has reached that Kentucky ceiling. He's had the best Kentucky teams that Kentucky could ask for. No coach before him was doing what he's been doing at Kentucky. So, but maybe there's just a cap, especially at a place like Kentucky, for sure. What are some successful defensive head coaches that we can think of? So I've heard about this rule too, where they're going to start trying to crack down on the fake injuries. I just don't know how you enforce that. How do you determine fake injury? And I get it, right? We can watch a guy go down because it happens every year. A guy's walking fine, he gets a little signal from the sideline, just goes down. Happens all the time. Just how do you enforce that and review that? Because what happens when that's not a fake injury? What happens when a guy gets concussed? And I don't know if anyone's ever had a concussion. Sometimes those things don't hit you right away. A play happens, you get up, you think you're good. About 30 seconds later, man, your head starts ringing, or you got blurry vision, and you got to take a knee. That optically is going to look like a fake injury. I think the refs are playing a dicey game there. I'm interested to see how they enforce it. Damn, Antonio, y'all getting in on John. Please do. Keep getting in on him. I'm not sure what percentage is either way on defensive coordinators becoming head coaches or offense coordinators. If I had to take a guess, they usually go offensively when they choose a coach. Jalen Jenkins is another guy, man, that, yes, I'm with you. And him and Jacob Rizzi are supposed to start being full go in practice. So that is another intriguing development. Yeah, like I said, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, those are the two top defensive names that I can think of that have been successful head coaches. So I agree with that. But when you look in the grand scheme, it seems like teams lean more towards offensive-minded coaches. I've been wanting FSU to go with the defensive guy for a while now. But FSU likes offensive-minded head coaches as well. I mean, Bobby was an offensive coach. Jimbo, obviously, offensive coach. Willie, offensive coach. Norvell was offensive coach. For whatever reason, programs seem to entrust the offensive-minded coaches more so than the defensive-minded ones. But Nick Satan, as you call him, the GOAT, definitely the modern-day GOAT. One of the things that you also got to keep track of or try to keep aware of, they said we got out of the first scrimmage healthy, that's always a plus, right? Getting healthy first and foremost, and then staying healthy. The fact that you had no injuries in the scrimmage is a major blessing. And at certain positions, quite frankly, we can't afford any injuries. And I'm specifically talking about along the lines of scrimmage. I am, again, optimistic about both. I think your starting five on O-line is really good. It's pretty good. I just shudder at the thought of Pettenbaugh, name one. I shudder at the thought of any of those guys getting hurt. But I think Mike mentioned some of the younger O-linemen like playing decent football. So we'll also have to see how that plays out. Corey says, you realize the defensive coach can coach offense because they know what scheme can beat coverage. It's like, I'm not – it's not that I'm disagreeing with you, Corey. I'm just – again, if you just look at college football, historically, they seem to lean towards the offensive guys. Not disagreeing with you. I'm wondering why more defensive coaches don't get the nod. Dan Lanning, I forgot Dan Lanning has been a successful head coach so far. He'd probably be the third name I bring up. But if you look at most of the major jobs, you look at Lincoln Riley at USC, Brian Kelly at LSU, DeBoer now at Bama, Ryan Day at Ohio State. What is Marcus Freeman? Is he a defensive coach or an offensive coach? I think Marcus Freeman's a defensive coach. So maybe it's a little closer than I'm initially thinking. We'd have to just go down the list. Bobby worked out. Bobby kind of worked out, didn't he? He kind of worked out. Absolutely. Man, you kind of took the thought out of my head, Jeff. People don't talk about 2013. Obviously, we talk about 2013. What people don't tend to talk about in 2013 is how lucky that team was in terms of just injuries. On the field, they were who they were. You don't get both every player on both sides of the ball getting drafted pretty much. Like that, obviously elite talent on both sides of the ball. But what we don't talk about, I think, enough is how, the starting 5-0 line in 2013 was damn good. Anybody want to name me a backup on that O-line? Because you probably can't. And how much trouble we would have been if one of the O-linemen would have went down. Austin Barron probably was your best offensive backup on that O-line. And y'all saw how that looked when he had to start in 2014 when Stort left. They ended up having to move Cam Irving to center. And Big Rod, as a freshman, got to play at tackle simply because. So that's a good point. That 2013 team was injury, for the most part, that their luck on injury was supreme. The biggest injury on that team I can think of was Tyler Hunter. And that was a blessing in disguise because Tyler Hunter got hurt. Guess who started in place of safety for Tyler Hunter? A little known corner by the name of Jalen Ramsey. Y'all remember that. Tyler Hunter probably was the biggest injury going into that season. And he was playing pretty damn good football in 2012 and 2011. But it's because of that we got to see Jalen Ramsey as a true freshman, and the rest is history there, right? So that was probably the biggest injury that team had. So that 2013 team was very fortunate or blessed, however you want to determine or define, I should say, luck. 2013 team was very lucky in terms of injuries. I know people hate Notre Dame, but I am a Freeman fan, bro. I really am. And you're right, bro. Lanning and Freeman, two defensive guys, but they haven't won it yet. But Freeman has at least played for a national championship. Smith says, I want to get your opinion on the other people that really watch, or want to get the opinion of other people that really watch college football. Do y'all think this Bama defense is better than FSU's defense in 2023? They don't have a player better than Verse or Fisk. I don't know, man. I got to see it. I don't. Just based off if I was basing it off right here today, I would say no. You're right. They don't have a player like Verse or Fisk. Hell, Ronaldo Green, NFL, Jerry and Jones, NFL. Like, do they have a bunch of high caliber players. So that it just remains to be seen how they put it together. Right? Because Braden Fisk was considered a good player coming in the portal from Central Michigan. But there were questions about Braden Fisk and is that how good is he exactly coming from Central Michigan? I don't think people foresaw him being that good. I thought he, was, again, you can go back and check the tape. I thought Braden Fisk was FSU's biggest addition, even over Keon. And I love Keon, but I thought Braden Fisk was that guy. I'll be honest with you, though. I didn't know Braden Fisk was that guy. Like, I didn't think he would be that good. So it kind of just remains to be seen. Oh, my camera gave out. Now I'm on the other camera. Hold on. Give me a second. Y'all don't want to see this angle. All right, we're back. 2023 defense was loaded. Bama has athletes, of course, but can they come together? Yeah, right, and that's the question, Antoine. 2023 defense was loaded. Bama has the substance. They have the athletes, but can it click? Can it gel? And can it click and gel in game one? I don't give a damn what Bama does the rest of the season. Bama might have the greatest defense of all time, but can we catch them slipping in game one? That's the question. Maybe we can. Jeff, my man Jeff with a $10 dono. Hey, I appreciate all the love y'all got coming in here tonight. Hit that like button for me, please. He says, I'm not going to ever let that 2023 team being snubbed. I'm going to start again, Jeff. I'm sorry. I'm not going to ever let that 2023 being snubbed. I'm never going to let that go. Do you watch those teams who play in the playoffs? They were beatable. Hey, you're preaching to the choir, my man. We've had that discussion ad nauseum, and I don't disagree with you. 100%, 150%, 1,000% agree with what you're saying. I'm not saying FSU wins a natty that year because you still had to get on the field, and we still had, Tate Rodemaker or Brock Glenn or whoever playing quarterback for you in the playoff. But the way that defense was playing at the end of the season, you can't tell me that they wouldn't have been in the mix. So no, you get no pushback from me. Appreciate the love, Jeff, as always.
My name is Jeff.
But yeah, guys, man, y'all. Ramsey was a dog playing the slot as freshman. That joker can play slot, field, boundary. Fisk came on later in that year. He can play 2, 3, 4 technique. He got a motor, but I don't know what spinach verse was on. Remember, Ramsey started off at safety. He didn't play slot. They played him next to Terrence Brooks against Pitt. He started at safety. Joyner played that slot / star position where they moved him everywhere. Joyner was a beast. But Ramsey started off at safety next to Terrence Brooks. But yeah, of course, we know Ramsey could play all the positions in the secondary as well. And it looks like he'll be playing safety I'm interested to see Ramsey play safety at Pitt this year. He's having his Charles Woodson arc where he's lost a step. So it's time for him to take that move from being an elite corner to maybe being an elite safety. So interested to see Ramsey this year for sure. But yeah, man, the scrimmage, I think, has given a lot of us some optimism, and it should. But I also gotta do what I gotta do what I do, and that is simply tell y'all don't take it too far. Don't start talking about book tickets to Charlotte. Let's be reasonable. Let's be intelligent fans. I'm not telling you how to be a fan. I am asking you though that you take it all in stride. This team still has a lot of questions. And remember last year, and I hate to keep bringing up 2-10. 2-10's dead. We passed it. But last year, everybody thought the way that D-line looked against our O-line, come to find out our O-line was absolutely atrocious, which is why the D-line, which wasn't very good in it of itself, was dominating. Like everybody took from last year's practices and scrimmages that last year's team should have been obviously better than 2-10. And I believe that they were better than 2-10 from a talent perspective. Is that team had no chemistry. That team had nothing. So how's the chemistry? Got to continue to work that, especially in the O-line. I talked about it on the last stream. Herb Hand says he plays 5. He plays 5 O-linemen, and he's going to ride or die with the 5. That is huge when we start talking about chemistry and cohesion and those guys getting on one accord. So those things is what we're looking to develop here going forward. Communication, all those things. We continue to do that. I don't want to go as far as to say sky is the limit, but Evans, you can have a pretty decent season this year. And hell, maybe you can surprise some folks. All it takes is a couple upsets, and you're looking at a 7-win team to maybe a 9-win team or an 8-win team. And if you're talking about 9+ wins, you're talking about competing for a playoff. And essentially what I was saying on social media earlier today was there's your own personal expectations, and then there's the actual expectations. I have my own personal expectations for Florida State, but I also am a realist and I look at the talent as we've seen it and just what it is, and I go, and I haven't given my season prediction yet, and this isn't that, but I'm simply to put it out there, based on just what's on paper. FSU is a 7 to 8 win team, and I believe 8 being on the 8 wins tells me that you don't drop a game that you shouldn't. 8 wins says, okay, you lose to Bama, you lose the games that you should lose, but for the most part, you take care of all the games you should win. Maybe you pull an upset in one of the games that you should lose, but then you still drop a NC State or something. That's what an 8-win team is to me, based off this schedule. Beating the teams that you have more talent than, or losing maybe one of those games but pulling off an upset. 7 wins is more par for the course, where not only are you going to lose those teams that you're supposed to lose to, yeah, you'll probably also drop another one. 7 to 8 win teams is I believe a realistic expectation to have. My personal expectation, and I stand firm on it, you went 2-10. I need 10-2. If I want this program to bounce back and not be stuck in mediocrity, and not Mike Norvell just to be a dead coach walking, prove to us that 2-10 was a fluke. The only way to me you prove that isn't by winning 7 games. It's by winning 10 plus and competing for the playoff. So that's my personal expectation. But I don't thrust that on y'all because a lot of people think that my expectation is unrealistic. And that's fair. I think the logical expectation is 7 to 8 wins. But if you have your own personal expectations, you're not wrong for having that. The day that will live in infamy. Antonio with the $5. Appreciate the $5 super chat. He says, take everything with that grain of salt at this point. And you should, right? It's okay to be in wait and see mode. Definitely take everything with, some little bit of trepidation. Just don't get too high and don't get too low. It's a process. And FSU's still working through it. That's all you gotta, if you can keep that in mind, you'll have a healthy offseason. If you start sipping Kool-Aid too strong, well, you're setting yourself up for failure, I think. Appreciate that.
Bitch, be humble. Sit down. Be humble. Sit down.
In 2013, who was the running back one? That's Devontae. My dog said, you got 9-3 expectations. And again, you ain't wrong for that. I'd be happy with 9 wins. I want 10-2, but I wouldn't be pissed off at 9 wins. 9 wins still to me proves that last year was probably a fluke. You can win 9 years after 2-10. I'm gonna sit here and go, yeah. Last year was a fluke. You back on pace. From 2022, 9-3, 2023, 13-0. Strictly talking, of course, we're talking just regular season. 2-10 in 24, but back up to 9-3 in 2025. Then 2-10 is the outlier there. Everything else is right on par. So I would not be mad at 9-3. 100% would not be mad at 9-3. Hoping Gus gets in his bag, seeing what his Auburn squads did to those super talented Bama squads. Misdirection, getting super athletic defenders thinking rather than just playing. Again, it was a long time ago, but I'm with you. I don't think anyone's underestimating, at least I don't think anyone's underestimating the head coach. I do think we put too much on coaching in college. I've said it before. College is about talent. The NFL is about coaching. NFL, the talent is pretty much even across the board. The best team in the NFL isn't that much more talented than the worst team. Coaching a lot of times separates that, right? Whereas we're talking about college ball, the talent level across college is drastically different. Even between good teams. The best team in the American Conference doesn't hold a candle to Ohio State or Clemson or the best teams in these Power 4 or 5 conferences, whatever we're calling it nowadays. So while I agree that I think the coaching staff is better, 100% better, you still got to have the horses to run the race. Out of pocket tape. Bill Belichick wins. That would be crazy. That'd be crazy. I ain't mad at that tape. That'd be crazy though. Oh, this year, who's running back one? Great question. I think from all accounts, bro, they're saying Roydell, and I think they're giving Roydell that off of just, I think Sawchuk's in the mix. And I talked about it earlier, Corey. I don't know if you were in here for that, but they're reporting that, or Mike Norvell specifically, said that Chroma is ahead of the curve in terms of blitz pickup, identifying blitzes, and being able to pick it up. If Chroma continues to do that, he'll be on the field more than even I anticipate. But I think starting the year, I think you got a Roydell, Sawchuk kind of rotation, mixing in some Cam and Chroma there on the back end. I think that's what you see versus Bama. You're probably going to give Roydell a shot to play Bama. I at a minimum, right? Jeff with another dono. I'm not expecting a lot, 8 wins, but if we beat Bama, the lies are coming. If you beat Bama, for sure. Here's the tricky thing about Bama, and thank you for the $5, Jeff. I always appreciate the love and support. I got you.
My name is Jeff.
Here's the tricky thing about the Bama game. If you win it, because then you look at the rest of that schedule and you go, okay, if you're good enough to beat Alabama, who can't you beat on that schedule? Other than probably Clemson. Who can't you beat on that schedule? The expectations, and I've spoke on this before, and it's not about beating or losing to Bama. That's how you answer from that. Because beating Bama is irrelevant if you go out there and you drop the Virginia game. Because you're not going to lose to Kent State. You're not going to lose to Texas A&M East. You go out there and drop the Virginia game before Miami, that Bama loss is null and void. Or the Bama win is null and void, in my opinion. You blew your load, for lack of a better term. Right? Anybody disagree with that take? You dropped the Virginia game before Miami, then you blew your load. So it's not beating Bama or losing to Bama. Hell, you lose to Bama, but you go out, beat Miami in the fifth game of the season. You right there still, because that's an ACC game. So it's all about how you respond to the Bama, win or loss. You win that game, yes, lies are coming because the expectations are definitely going to go through the roof. You're not going to get me to lie to you there. You beat Bama, there's going to be big-time takes coming from a week 1 win against Alabama. I'll be giving them too. You beat Bama, and I'll be sitting here going, okay, you might be cooking with something. I have probably different energy, but it's all about the response. It's all about the response. if that's the case, upsets wouldn't happen. Coaching matters. To a degree, you're not 100% wrong. I said what matters more. Like talent matters in the NFL, but coaching matters more, right? Talent matters in college football more than coaching. Yes, upsets do happen. But upsets also happen because teams aren't focused, and you can blame that on coaching if you want, which is fair, right? But 9 out of 10 times, 10 out of 10 times, the most talented team in college football wins the national championship. Last year, Ohio State. No denying that was the most talented team in college football. Year before that was Michigan. Michigan was the preseason favorite to win the national championship for a reason. Year before that was Georgia. Like, we can go down the list. That is not the case in the NFL. The most talented team does not always win in the NFL. Again, I'm not saying coaching is irrelevant. I'm just saying what matters more. The only problem with that is you can't use that because FSU is not supposed to be a good team. So the people that would say those narratives, they'll be dismissed immediately because it's not like because they tried it with LSU. LSU's overrated, but FSU was supposed, especially in 2023. 2022, we were coming off that 5-win season. There were some questions. So when you beat LSU and the way you beat them, there was, I'm not going to say valid takes, but there were takes that, LSU's a little overrated. We overrated them. Florida State's not as good as we thought, but LSU definitely isn't as good as we thought. 2023, there was no denying, right? And people still try to say that. And LSU went on to have the Heisman winner and all these other things. You can't really say that this year because Florida State's not supposed to be any good. FSU's not supposed to be any good this year. Any good. So I don't think that narrative will hold any weight for those that try to use it. And you're right. People will try to use it. People will try to say, Bama's overrated. They'll try to talk about DeBoer. And I will say that. That is the interesting thing to watch. If FSU can pull the upset game 1 is how that Bama fan base reacts to Kalen DeBoer. That's going to be fun to watch. Coaching means more when talent lacks. I think our coaches are better than 6 and 7 teams we play. I think our talent's better than 6 of the 7 teams we play, to be frank with you. If you not naming just the big 4, Clemson, Bama, Miami, Florida. We are flat out more talented than every other team on that schedule. We recruit at a higher clip than every other team on the schedule. So we can argue whether our coaches are better than some of those teams because I think there are teams on our schedule that have good coaches but lack the talent. So we can make an argument, but for sure our talent level is better than the 6 or 7 teams that you're alluding to. For sure. That's not even a question. But I will ask y'all a simple question. Do you think Norvell's a better a football coach? Not recruiter. Is Norvell a better head coach than Billy Napier? Is Norvell a better head coach than Mario Cristobal? Just those 2 guys. Most FSU fans are going to say, yeah, we think Norvell's a better X's and O's coach than both of those guys I just named. And I would probably not disagree with that, actually. I think Billy and Mario leave a lot to be desired, especially Billy, because he's an offensive, play calling type coach. And his stuff is egregious at times. Mario's not too far behind. But regardless, you lost to both last year, and you're not favorites to beat them this year. That doesn't mean you can't beat them, just not favorites. So, and no Sage with the $10. He said, just because I fuck with you. Hey, thank you, sir. I appreciate. Let's see. Let's get a new one in here. Let's get some Brock Glenn love.
big as the Super Bowl, but the difference is it's just two guys playing shit that they did in the studio.
It may not work like that, Polk. We playing Bama early with the first-time QB. Bama scared me in the trenches, and that's how ball is. I don't disagree. You're not saying anything I disagree with. One, I'm not a big fan of the quarterback. That's no secret. And yes, FSU has to block it. FSU has to block it. But people have brought it up through this chat. You go back and watch some of Bama games, and that's a year ago, so that doesn't necessarily translate to this year. Last year does not translate to this year for Florida State or Bama. But Bama struggled with the mobile quarterback, so we'll see. And Bama is also, to Matt's point, they're also breaking in their own new quarterback. So fair points. Damn, what you mean by I'm sounding like Norvell? He said I'm sounding like Norvell. I'm beating around the bush with some of these questions. Man, I thought I was pretty good. Of course, you beat Bama, we're definitely going to start telling lies. Robert says, even if we beat Leicester first game. Leicester. I read your name while reading your comment. Robert Lester says, Polk, even if we beat Bama the first game, I don't know if I could even celebrate. I'd be scared they would disappoint us. Like I said, man, it's all about the response. You have a right to be, okay, we beat Bama, but then how do we respond? It's all about the response. All about the response. So I'm with you. Beat Bama, lose to Virginia, then beat Miami and Pitt. See, in theory, man, that sounds good. I just don't know how realistic that is. To beat Bama, lose to Virginia, and then beat two of the tougher teams on their schedule. Because Pitt's always a tough game. Pitt's always a tough team that's tough to play. Not impossible. If you can't beat Virginia, man, beating Miami and Pitt back-to-back seems like a tall order. Michigan wasn't the most talented team the year they won. They only had a 54% blue chip ratio. They just had a dominant defense. Well, if you want to judge it off the how many of those guys got drafted? They had arguably the best corner in football. They had, at the time, he kind of fell off a cliff, a guy who's considered the best running back in football, or one of the top 5 running backs in football. They had a quarterback that went not number one, but a first-round pick at quarterback, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, they had guys. If you just want to base it off blue chip ratio, but you also have to base that off of NFL prospects, right? And again, Michigan was preseason favorite for a reason, because some of those blue chips or non-blue chips exceeded expectations, right? Braden Fisk would not have been counted on a blue. Braden Fisk or Jared Verse would not have been counted on 2023 FSU's blue chip ratio either. Both NFL players. You get what I'm saying, New King? They pay those coaches those millions of dollars because coaches is how you get the players. That's why the best coaches get the most money, or the best recruiters. I mean, y'all are making it seem like I'm saying coaching is irrelevant in college. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying that the Jimmies and Joes are more important in college than it is at the professional game. I don't think that's a bold take. I don't think I'm saying anything crazy. That might be the best day on Twitter, honestly, Polk. Which are you talking about if we beat Bama? Oh, that's Norvell's catchphrase? I believe it's valid, though. I do believe it's valid. Of course, there's Norvell can't recruit. He doesn't know. Hold on, let me bring it up. Where to place talent. Talent evaluations are trash, and that's why he's suspect. His passing game is trash. Everything a slot fade. I'm glad Gus is the head coach. Oh man. Yeah, the Bama. If FSU was to beat Bama, that would be very interesting. I'm telling you, man. Tune into the spaces. You're gonna get a lot of interesting takes. But man, we did a 2 hour long. 2 hours, man. 2 hours of the Hangover. Good show. Again, I told you, man. I'm trying to bring. We're back in the mix. Weekly shows, at least 2 a week. So expect to see me either Friday or Saturday night. But this is weekly shows, man. Weekly shows here. It's good to be back. It's glad that I'm getting all the love I'm getting. I love the fact that Miami fans have turned back up. I see John Shields. We had Weirdo Dennis talking about licking feet in the last stream. You had New King and Galaxy and Caveman in here tonight. So shout out to the Miami fans that's showing me some love. Hit the like button. Of course, all the regulars. Love y'all. Love the support that I get. And again, weekly. I'm back, man. I'm back doing this weekly. I can't wait till game one. Win, lose, or draw, y'all know where I'm gonna be. Sitting right here, most likely. If I can get the room fixed up before then, we'll be in the new studio. Either way, I'm gonna be right here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch. That's where I stream simultaneously. So right now we are live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So if you can't catch me on YouTube, you can always check me out on one of those other platforms. But it's good to be back. And it's good to have y'all back. And it's good to have the love and support. Again, I think I got the best. Maybe I'm tooting my own horn. I think we got the best community when it comes to the Florida State football fans, man. We talk ball here. Not a lot of trolling. I'm not saying we don't have fun. We have fun. We go back and forth with Miami fans, but we talk ball. We talk ball. We logical. Try to be anyway. I know some people don't like everything I say, but hell, I don't like everything some of y'all say. So it's all love. We can always agree to disagree. At the end of the day, see, like Noel says 27-21. I don't agree, but I'm not going to kill him for it. That's his take. That's his opinion. I already gave my opinion on week one, and I'm more optimistic than I was a week or two ago. But I'm not going to change my opinion just yet. If you missed that, I had it. What did I have it? 41-20, Bama. A close first half. I said Bama would put away in the second half. Shut your ass up, dog. Got the dogs in the back. I'm sipping on some whiskey tonight. But, yeah, man, as always, man, y'all hit that like button. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Share the video. Continue to share the content. And, yeah, I appreciate it, man. Y'all have a good rest of y'all evening. I know it's getting late. It's getting late for some of y'all. I think it's midnight on the East Coast or close to it. So, as always, man, it's your boy Polk over here on 863 Seminole TV. Y'all stay classy, Seminoles. We are out here. Go Noles.